Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon whenever you're watching this. Welcome to my backyard. Today I'm going to be talking about the numerology of June 2021. We are in a 5-year and a 2 global month now. I'd also like to thank my Patreon supporters for making this video possible, and I would like to invite anyone who wants to sign up for the monthly personal readings that I give through Patreon. The link to that can be found in the description. So let's get to it. I would like to start off with talking about last month, the 5-year, 1 global month. And a lot of you resonated with that. I think we are all, more than ever, going through these universal cycles a little bit more closely, a little bit more, I don't know, in a connected way than we used to, simply because of the pandemic. If you think about it, there hasn't really been much in recent history that literally affected every single human being on the planet. And that's just something that I was reflecting on and felt like mentioning in this video. I know when you hear that, it makes sense. You're like, yeah, of course, this affected the whole world, but there's been nothing in my lifetime, or it seems like my parents' lifetime, where there was a real global event like this to unify us in this way, no matter how divided we actually are. And my hypothesis is that that is one of the contributing factors as to why, for the first time, we're all feeling this 5-year of change in very similar ways, despite whatever personal months that we're going through, which is something that you would learn about through my Patreon service. I really, truly feel like this month is a time to remind ourselves of that in this 2 months of emotions, of love. 2 is about connection. So remember, despite the fact that we're all so divided, and 2 can also be about that duality, try to bring it back to connection. So that's the first thing that I would like to talk about this month. Last month, we were in a 1 month, and that was a time of initiation. It was the ultimate beginning, as I put it. It was a time for starting things, but in the light of change. It was, for me at least, kind of like a introduction to the rest of the year and the rest of this 9-year cycle. It felt like I was just kind of like getting my feet wet, you know? Let me know if it was like that for you, and if not, I would love to hear, what last month is like, what this month is like for you so far. But whenever you go from a 1 to a 2, whether that be a year or a month, the most important thing to keep in mind is to slow down. And if you were to watch my video on the resources of numerology, if you were to watch any videos where I give you suggestions on what books to get, you might have looked at or purchased even the Life Cycles book. And if you did, you see that. Whenever you go from a 1 to a 2, it's always a time to slow down. Remind yourself about connection, things like balance, love, sometimes relationships, but that's more personal. It's really interesting because this 2-month aligns with the Mercury retrograde that we have going on right now. And if you follow astrology, some astrologers will tell you that that is a great time to stop operating from your mind, stop overthinking things, and then move to your heart. Think about, rather feel your way instead of thinking through this time, and really going with your gut instinct. Ignoring your gut instinct in this month is a very bad idea, and it, like I said, just so happens to align with Mercury retrograde, which is just so appropriate. So don't overthink things. I know in Mercury retrograde, they always say, like, don't ever make any big purchases. Don't ever do what I'm doing and try try to do anything technical with a new device, or that's what I'm doing right now. I'm filming on a new camera and I'm like, will it work? Will I have to do this 3 times? That's like a common problem that people have with Mercury retrograde. It's not about taking risks, etc. And that's all true. But also, I think that, at least for me, especially with the 2 month, there's just like a lot of hurt that surfaces. Things that we always live with. It doesn't mean like bad things happen in Mercury retrograde, but the things that we live with kind of like hurt again. And it's just a great time to revisit that hurt and let yourself feel what you're feeling while you're feeling it. And that's just some general advice for the 2 month. I wrote here that the 5-year 2 month is a time of liberation by way of emotional release. So I'm going to talk a lot about the 3 R's. The 3 R's in this video. It came to that. I don't know how, but here we are. The 3 R's being rest, release, and hopefully out of that, reconciliation. But starting off with rest and release, I wrote here that it's about balancing 2 oppositions. So when I think of the number 2, well, I think of a lot of things, but you think of like 2 lines next to each other. And if you've been watching my yearly forecast videos, you know that duality is a common theme for the 2000s and the 2020s, especially because of that repeating number 2. So it's about balancing 2 oppositions. That's where reconciliation comes in. But moving forward, I wrote here that this month, because of this, it's about changing our world, the 5 of change, by acknowledging these 2 sides at play and intuitively coming up with a solution. So you cannot think your way through a solution this month. You have to kind of be willing to be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit like how it was in April with the 9, and figure out a way through whatever you're in right now in what is emotionally healthy for all people involved, including yourself. For the long-term part of this will affect the rest of the year. This is a very important month. Whenever you get to June, it just seems to be a very important month because you are halfway through the year, and at times it can be a little bit of a turning point. The year starts to be actualized, and this is how it is doing it right now. I wrote here too that this can be a time when we devote energy into what truly deserves it, which has its own kind of freedom, the 5, freedom. So if you've been following these monthly forecasts, you kind of see a pattern here now. You probably see like, okay, 5 here, and then we move into a month, and that month will always put into context how we're supposed to get to the root of the 5-year. So freedom, how we get to freedom this month, our emotions. It's very simple. That's a very simple way to look at it, but it works, and it's strange. I say a lot here that I'm always trying to have numerology not work. I'm always trying to like come across a month where I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. It doesn't feel like this kind of month, and that has never happened for me. And if you watched that discussion video that I did with the Sixth Sense Society, the last video that I posted before this one, you know that I often see the cycles as an underutilized tool in numerology. We kind of seem to be hyper focused on, the life path numbers and all that, and that's fine, but it's for me personally, I think there is a lot more utility to understanding where I am, not just who I am, and what I should be focusing on or thinking about in this moment for the best outcome. And that's what this is all about. Now, I also wrote here that I often, and I don't know why, but I often associate the number 2 with cycles, and I was trying to figure out where I got this from, and I'm not particularly sure why, but something not very strange, but kind of strange happened the other night. I I keep my iPad and Apple Pencil or like a notebook if I don't have that near my bed, because sometimes while I'm falling asleep I like think of these things where they're like related to numerology or something else in my life or something that's worth remembering. And I'll honestly, like, a lot comes to me at that time, more during the day. Always when I'm trying to fall asleep, all of a sudden the things that I couldn't pay attention to during the day comes to me at night. And there was this image, and combined with this piece of wisdom of the number two that came to me, and it pertained to cycles. And I think that I haven't studied this enough. I need to devote a few years to this if I ever have the time to this, but I I think that the number two in sacred geometry is often associated with a circle. And to me, in my mind, I don't know if this is actually true, but as I was lying there thinking about the number two, I saw those two lines come together. When we're at number one, we just had one line, but we're at number two and we have two lines. And I saw them like mold together into this circle, a spiral. So this is where the cycles come in. And I started to draw that, what I was thinking and feeling, honestly, intuitively feeling at the time. And it was, in retrospect, I think about the karmic aspect of the number two, which surprised me because I've always associated the number eight with karmic cycles. And if you look at the even the number eight on its side, the infinity symbol, yeah, like, it makes a lot of sense. But for whatever reason, I was thinking about the number two in light of cycles. And this month, I think, because of that, is going to be a very karmic month somehow, either personally or globally. I'm not sure yet. But what I had drawn here, and I don't think you're gonna be able to see it, and if not, like, I'll try to, I don't know, jerry rig something, like maybe just like edit it into the video. I drew like the words, what goes up must come down, and then what goes down must come up, in like this oval pattern, the cycles that I was seeing. And around it, for whatever reason, this eye. I have no idea if you can see this, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's when I was half awake, half between sleep and being awake. I just kept seeing that and I had to draw it. And it's like, it's so strange too, because as I was drawing, it was coming together and making sense. In the light of the 5 year, things cannot go on the way that they have been. What goes up must come down. What is down must go up. And so that, I think, is why I started to feel like the two this month was more of a karmic number, because we're in this time of change, and it's so frustrating because I think if you're like me, you look at the world and you just feel like it's never going to change. And if you feel like that, I'm here to tell you that that's completely fine, but things are changing in ways that are very hard to see. And if you don't believe that, at least try to implement this in your personal life. If we all did this on our own, we're in the age of Aquarius, so this is about individualism anyway. If we all just did our best to try to change ourselves for the better, change our lives for the better, knowing that this is a 5 year, it'd be a pretty good year. You know, like, despite the fact that we just seem to have this never-ending story, this power struggle between class systems and everything. I get it. I completely get it. I feel exactly the same way. It's exhausting. This whole story is exhausting. But there's something karmic about this month, and there's something very deep and intuitive and cyclic and powerful that can be done this month. And I don't know what that is for you, but I just wanted to tell you that and leave you with that. And if you feel confused, you need to slow down. That's what that means. don't feel guilty about putting things on the back burner this month. You need to figure out where you are right now. You need to figure out what the heck I was just talking about, because it was very abstract. You gotta tap into the wisdom of the moment, because this is where the growth happens. This is where, for the rest of the year, I don't know what that looks like yet, but it's something to do with this month, and it's very important that we do this work at this time. I also wrote like a lot of weird half asleep stuff that seems like it could be very profound, but not to like common language. Like, it's just very strange. I wish I could read this off to you, but it honestly doesn't make sense in the context of this interaction where I have to actually be coherent, if that makes any sense. But really interesting. And I was thinking a lot about the Wheel of Fortune in this way as well in Tarot. I think that's card number 10, so it has not much to do with the number 2. But for whatever reason, I kept seeing that. And I think with this rest and this kind of release from the emotional stuff surfacing and everything that we've gone through, etc., and everything that we're now faced with, this new challenge that we're faced with, we come to reconciliation. And it's simply to just harmonize. It's to restore harmony, usually to two opposing things, but I don't think it has to be. I think you could have things in many different buckets and reconcile all of that. This is what work I think we need to eventually do this month. I wrote here that it's about moving forward into the 5-year with resolve. That's the function of this month and the 5-year. After this month, when we take a step back to slow down and enter a different kind of understanding, we can turn officially a new corner into the new year and head towards an unknown future. But we have to allow time for this first, to process where we are. So I also wrote like some tidbits of random information here. This is an 11 month, so it's a master number, so it makes sense why I'm kind of getting like these weird downloads, and it feels intense. Master numbers are intense, they inherently are when we move through them. I wrote here that 2 can be expressed as severe 2 opposing forces, so we might witness a lot of friction in the outer world. And just remember, don't react from that, just stay calm, look at it objectively from, you kind of have to be a diplomat in this month. You kind of have to look at all the sides and reconcile that. Some advice, as I've already said, is to slow down, take time off if you can, be selfish with your time. That's like the ultimate thing probably with the 5-year, 2-month. 5 is about freedom, so it's usually kind of like making sure that you get that in whatever way you can. It can be kind of a selfish number in that way. And then the number 2, to slow down, you through this, you're kind of being a little bit beneficially selfish with your emotional spaces, your boundaries, set healthy boundaries this month. That's always good advice, though. I wrote here like, chores can wait. The vacuuming could wait this month. Something else probably needs your attention, and it's important. Work is not the priority now, as in like what you do to like make money. Your emotional health is. That's what it comes to. I wrote here too that you should be willing to accept things that you can't change, because we had a lot of change. We're having a lot of change this year, and it's all happened very fast. And we get to this month that we're finally slowing down, and it may seem like, yeah, but I wish that would change. Except the things that you can't change this month. Some things just cannot, like for whatever reason, it's not that time. I wrote here too that ironically, that kind of surrender, that acceptance, opens up spaces that need to see the light of day. When you accept that, like, I've never been happy about that. I will never be happy about that, but it's just there. And then ironically, that might change when you finally do that. It's kind of strange, but it's true. Last year we were in a 1 month, so it's not about striving success anymore. So if you haven't stopped that success train, that like striving for success thing from last month, this is your warning. Like, stop. You're gonna hit a wall and experience a wake-up call if you don't slow down enough this month. Trust your intuition. Like I already said, your gut instinct aligns with the Mercury retrograde. Realign your intentions this month, okay, with love. It sounds so dumb, but like, really, why are we doing what we're doing? It should be for a good reason. It should be out of love and compassion, and we forget that. It's easy to forget that because we get sidetracked. There's just this life here on earth is so complex. It is so difficult. It's like there's no one right answer and there's no one thing going on at any certain time. We have to like contend with so many things at the same time, and we forget that, like, yeah, I'm doing this because this work is so important and this is what the outcome is supposed to be, and that's why I'm doing this. So realign your intentions with that. I wrote here, ask, why are you here? That's the intensity of the master number. It's questions like that. You know, why are you doing what you're doing? Is it entirely out of self-interest, or maybe the need to be right or prove a point? Okay, can be put down for a minute. A lot of us, no matter how great we are at being spiritual, like we kind of get lost in self-interest a lot of times, and we get lost in, like, you know, the need to be right, because maybe deep down there is something very true about, you know, what we have going on, like our opinions and our belief systems, etc. But it's good to put that down this month. That's my advice. Anything like that, just if you can for a month, put it down. And that's all the notes that I have for this month. I feel like I forgot to mention stuff. You know, right before I make these videos, I think, oh, I gotta remember to talk about that. Oh, I gotta remember to talk about that. It's so smooth in my head. And then I turn the camera on and everything goes wrong. You know, the noises start and I get distracted easily, but perhaps that's okay, you know. I think, especially in the light of Mercury retrograde, it's not so much about making sure everything goes the way that we want it. I think Mercury retrograde is always our great teacher, because we're forced to surrender when the stuff doesn't work out the way that we had planned. It's supposed to kind of be messy sometimes and snap us back into the things that we're ignoring because we're so focused on the outcome all the time, you know. And as I'm doing this, there's some landscapers coming and they're about to make a whole bunch of noise, so I guess this was good timing. But please let me know if you have any questions. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because that helps me so much. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for watching these videos. Thank you all so much for sticking with me, despite the fact that I've been making less videos. And the next time you see me, I'll probably be doing some kind of update on the channel now that we're halfway through the year. Just to check in with you guys and let you know what's going on in my world. It's about to get really loud, so I'm gonna go now. So I'll see you all soon. I hope you have a great day. Bye.